So I'm going to share my slides. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, this is also a part of research method, and it is also this block is also related to research dissertation. So social research is pertain to study of socio-cultural implication of social issues, and in this regard different scientific disciplines have influenced social research in term of theorization as well as methods adopted to in the pursuit of knowledge. So consequently it embraced the conceptualization of the problems and theoretical debate, specification of research practices, analytical framework, and epistemological presupposition. So in this block, we are going to learn these four things, that is methods of social research, descriptive and experimental research, evaluation and action research, and naturalistic inquiry and case study. And in unit 1, method of social research, we have three things: empiricism, phenomenology, and critical paradigm. So now come to the empiricism. Empiricism is a Greek word for experience called empiria, and the theory of empiricism attempt to explain how human being acquire knowledge and improve their conceptual understanding of the world. Means it is a philosophical theory and applicable in many disciplines like science, social science, software development, human knowledge, and it comes predominantly from experiences gathered through the five senses. So, empiricism is a knowledge is spoken of as a posterior or from the latter, being gained from experience. Simply put, experiencism is the idea that all learning comes from experience and observation. And this word comes from the told you Greek word, and the theory of empiricism attempt to explain how human being acquire knowledge and improve their conceptual understanding of the world. And in science it is heavily emphasized the use of experiment and observation. The goal of such experimentation is to apply theories to real world observation and record the findings in the form of empirical data and present them to relevance. I would like to give something empiricism versus rationalism. This the idea of empiricism contrasts with idea of rationalism. You cannot correlate. While empiricism is about improving knowledge through experimentation and first-hand experiences, rationalism, also known as intellectualism, means knowledge can also be the developed by exploring concepts and through deduction, intuition, and revelation. So, in rationalism, deduction based on intuition, and it can create knowledge without prerequisite sensory experiences. So, knowledge is gained prior to experiences, and nationalism is associated with the term of priorly and therefore also known as a priorism. So, these things are totally different. Uh, I can give you one example. In the area of empiricism, referred it is based on approach and that uses real world data, metrics and result to build knowledge. Now come to the empirical inquiry. Empirical inquiry is also a part of research and it is using for empirical evidences, experiences, and also way of gaining knowledge by mean of direct or indirect observation or experiences. So it values some research more than other kind. And empirical evidences can be analyzed quantitatively, qualitatively, both. So it is a essentially a way of looking at thing, and it can be thought of method of approaching to the empirical world, like science considers theories and fact, and fact is also empirically variable observation, and a theory try to find relation between the fact that I have told by the my last lecture. Then come to empirical research. Empirical research is a involve uh, as a truth as determined by fact and logical consideration, and it aim the systematic interrelation of fact by experimentation. So it encouraged the rigorous impersonal process procedure dictated by the demand of logic, objectives, procedure. So it is a method to investigate, proceed in a systematic and orderly manner. Now these are the steps for empirical method, like collecting data by means of careful and critical observations, then measurement, and classify your data and table your data, analyze and reduct, then you have to make formulation of hypothesis, then you formulate the theory and laws. The next slide. What is phenomenology? It is also a part of research, and it is a philosophy of knowledge, philosophical study of structure of experiences. Wait. A structure of experiences and consequences. Edmund Husserl founded phenomenology as a philosophical movement in the early 20th century, and his follower later spread its own University of Göttingen and the University of Munich in Germany. And this phenomenology spread to France, United States, elsewhere. And in context to Husserl, early work according to Husserl concepts, phenomenology is primarily concerned with the systematic reflection and investigation of structure of consciousness and the phenomena that occur in the act of consciousness. So it is a distinguishable uh, from the Cartesian analysis method, and it is a set of object that act and react with one another. Some characteristic I would like to tell you, like phenomenology explain the meaning of the experiences of the person or more people living in relation of particular concept. It's not about the explanation but also the essential aspect of the experiences, and also try to explain what underlies the way people usually describe their own experiences. And one thing I would like to quote: researcher and informants are generally taken as a secondary stakeholder, and it is also based on people's experiences. Phenomenology also try to understand how build the meaning of things, and also examine the lifelong experiences of those who experience them and the implication they give them. Some type of phenomenology, various type of, like realistic phenomenology, also given by Husserl. Husserl's early formulation, it is already based on first edition of his logical study. It is also analyzed the intentional structure of mental behavior, and it is recommended by University of Munich in early 20th century. Other is constructive phenomenology. This is also a later formulation based on Husserl ideas around 1913, and it begin with an intuitive experiences of phenomenology and try to extract the generalized, you can say, uh, gen, uh, generalized feature of his experiences. Aside from questions about our relationship with the natural world that surround and we try to extract the essence what we have experienced. Another type of is essential phenomenology. It is a extended formulated of the Hegel explained in the Being on Time in 1927, and he is stating that the observer cannot separate himself from the world. Therefore, it is important to understand a man in his existential world. Another one is hermeneutic phenomenology. It is a method that human extenses is interpretative. Hermeneutic means is interpretative, and it is shown on being in time. So the subject matter dealt with the hermeneutics phenomenology include everything put on the agenda in the previous trends and stages. And the emphasis on hermeneutics, the method of interpretation, is totally different. And this tendency consists a lot of research on the history of philosophy and great influences humanity. And why it is important, why phenomenology is important, what is the importance of phenomenology? Because it examines the reality that its nature and structure can be only grasped by the inside of an individual, and it ends with this rigorous and decisive truth, giving way to possibility and speculation, investigation, doubts, approximation, and reconsideration of given phenomena. So it is way to enable scientific method in all areas of knowledge and truth. Now, would like to tell you what is phenomenology in sociology or phenomenological sociology. It is the study of formal structure of concrete social being, and it became available in and through the analytical description of conscious behavior. So the subject of such analysis is very meaningful word in the everyday life, and phenomenology sociology missions is to subjectively explain given subject of studies formal structure as well as object constructive in consciousness. So it is a method, phenomenological method, distinguish such statements from the native subject statement of the man and traditional social scientist of men, traditional social scientists who are in streets working in the natural environment of everyday life. So phenomenology study the structure of consciousness, experiences from the first person perspective, and the central structure of the experiences in the is it intention and direction, because it is an object or an experience with the things. So come to the next slide. Positivism. Positivism concept is given by the Auguste Comte. Positivism is a to describe an approach to study of society, and it relies specifically on empirical scientific evidence such as control, experiment, and statistic. It is a method of research. It is an ideology and reliable, authentic knowledge, and it can be uh, only be obtained by using the scientific method. Like positivism means experiment, measurement, observation, testing, and verification. And it is emerge. This approach is emerged by 19th century and challenged the traditional style of acquisition of knowledge, and which was primarily based on speculation, imagination, guessworks, rather than scientific methods. So the main assumption are only reliable and authentic knowledge can be called scientific knowledge or positive. And positive knowledge is a knowledge that is obtained using the scientific method. So the term positive knowledge simply means scientific knowledge. This is why this ideology is called positivism. So it advocate the use of scientific method, and scientific method is experiment, observation, measurement, and verification, testing also. So scientific method to generate positive or scientific knowledge, which is testable and verifiable. So this approach challenge the traditional style of building knowledge, and these are the traditional style knowledges: speculation, imagination, and guesswork. So Auguste Comte is a French sociologist, and it is widely, you can say, he was a founder of modern positivism, and he was the first philosopher who presented the theory of positivism by the giving criteria of building scientific knowledge. So Auguste Comte emphasized the application of scientific method for the acquisition of positive. Auguste theories before he has his idea in have two major works. Comte theories. One is the Course of Positive Philosophy. It was published in six volume from 1830 to 1842, and the another book is the General View of Positivism, published in 1842, 1848, I think. So the first three volume, the Course of Positive Philosophy, this book discussed the physics science as a physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, astronomy. And the last three volumes discuss some newly emerging social sciences like sociology. And all six volumes highlighted the importance of scientific method or acquiring knowledge in all disciplines. So in this book, last book, General View of Positivism, Com discuss what should be a nature of scientific methods to be used as systematic technique for gathering knowledge, and that can stand true in all situations, and it can be verified with evidences. So he defined positivism and sociology. Father of Auguste Comte is also known as a father of sociology and coined term sociology first time around 1838. And sociology was not independent science; it was seen as a general philosophy. So Comte laid down the foundation of discipline of sociology was established, and it is also after by this concept, it is also as independent science. Auguste Comte believed that positivism is indispensable for all sciences, example, natural sciences, social sciences. And he was a social philosopher who wanted to establish the new emerging discipline, sociology, as a science. And his major focus on application of positivism and deeply related sociology. So sociology can be widely acknowledged as a pure scientific discipline. So having these above goals in the mind, Comte defined sociology as a science of human society. So some main points given by Comte for positivism in sociology. Number one, sociology is a scientific discipline and must use scientific mode of inquiry for generation of valid authentication and verified sociological knowledge. And the sociological knowledge and theories should not be based on speculation, imagination, and guesswork, and also is exactly like any other pure science and has the potential of generating its own knowledge with the help of systematic scientific procedures. Comte termed sociology as a social physics earlier in the early years of his life because Comte believed principle of obtaining knowledge used in physics, it can be also in sociology. Comte also emphasized the use of systematic procedure in the discipline of sociology as a measurement, experiment, testing, observation, and he pointed to address the common issues of value judgment in social sciences, and also presented this theory of three stage of development as the basis of mm, for positivism. So he believed that the human thought has developed in three stages: the theological, the metaphysical, and the positive stage. And human being started to think that the happening and even their surroundings are only driven by rational forces. So these things are for positivism. Now come to the positivism versus phenomenology. These are major area. As I told you, positivism is the philosophical theory. Knowledge must be verified through the scientific method, like experiment, observation, and logical or mathematical. And phenomenology is a philosophical study, philosophical method, and it try to understand subjects, subjective life experiences, and um perspective of the peoples. Now come to the next slide. Phenomenology approaches in social research. Uh, if you think what is phenomenology in social research, what is doing phenomenology in social research? Phenomenology or epistemology or any which is related to philosophical research is also come in the ethical research, philosophical research. So these three four approaches: hermeneutical phenomenology, transpersonal phenomenology, social phenomenology, neurophenomenology, are next to phenomenology and social research. Phenomenology research help to understand what is it like to experience a specific situation and or a life event, and by describing the story of people who actually lived through a particular experience and their perception of it, your research can cut the to the heart of what it was truly like. This is not going to elaborate, and if you read more thing about phenomenology, you can read this book, Schutz Phenomenology and Hermeneutics Traditions. Now come to the critical paradigm. Critical paradigm is also a part of research. It is a problematic capable of systematic distortion, and it is a crucial paradigm to understand theory as well as practices. It is a, you can say, it is a generally include ideas developed by some social scientists like Max Horkheimer, Moody, Taft, Wirk, and later it critical paradigm work by the such some scholar Nancy Fraser, 1989. So critical paradigm posits that the social science can be never truly objective or value free, and this paradigm operate from the perspective that scientific investigations It should be conducted with the express of goal of social changes in mind. And many researchers in the critical paradigm might begin with the knowledge and the systems, and that the system are biased against others, like women or marginalized ethnic group. Moreover, their research projects aim to foster positive changes in the research participants from the system and being studied as what well as collect important data. So critical paradigm not only study power imbalance but also seek to the also seek to change them. Now come to the function of paradigms. These are the functions. It have notional functions, notational function, and it lessen the likelihood of inadvertently introducing hidden assumptions and concept for each assumption. Next is paradigm advances the accumulation of theoretical interpretation, and paradigm by their very arrangement suggests the systematic cross tabulation significant concepts. And last one is paradigm make for the codification of qualitative analysis in a way that method of social research approximate the logical if not the empirical rigor of the quantitative analysis. Now the come to the element of uh, critical social research. So the critical social research is not concerned with the simply describing technique of data collection, but rather through the exploration of number of case studies of critical social research, and it set out and then explore the nature of social critical research methodology. So it is a object of study is objective social appearances, and regard the positive scientific method as unsatisfactory because it deal only with surface appearances. Instead, critical social research methodology cut through surface appearance. It does so by locating social phenomena in their specific historical context. So it is a I told you it is simply describing technique of data collection. Now come to these things. Uh, these elements for critical social research approaches like abstraction, totality, essence, praxis, ideology, structure, history, deconstruction, and reconstruction. So these elements are come under critical analysis, and it all are used in empirical analysis also. So some things are these elements are come to approaches and technique of critical ethnographic, means critical approach to ethnographic analysis is somewhat different critical ethnographic particular approach in ethnographic which attempt to link to detail analysis. So now I'll come to give some points for critical tradition before going to elaborate these points. Critical social research is the part of long tradition of criticism of contemporary social research, social order. So, one famous sociologist, Bauman, 1976, criticized sociology for having too long concept like nature and come through Durkheim to person and various other form of functionism. Society has been as a second nature and organized organically through the contrary by strengthening the key role of common sense. Now, one approach is from the United States has tended to more pragmatic, and in sociology Robert Lynn uh, and C. Wright Mill said, examine the deal and practices and teaching of sociology by these elements. Now come to these points. Abstraction. Wait a minute. Yes. Abstraction. Abstraction uh, is a distillation of sensory perception of the word object into conceptual category. That is, we start from the objective word and select out the recurrent by defining features until an abstract concept is formulated, at least in our mind, and if not in directly communicable form. Because this process of distillation of some features from a set of observed object in the basis of most system of classification. So this abstraction is a process may be acceptable to phenomenalist approach to knowledge, and which involve an implicit assumption that science begin with factual observation and abstract from them, but it is not adequate for a critical social research. Critical social research admit the fact do not exist independently of their theoretical context, and if a fact are not self-evident, then concept cannot be abstracted from them. So critical social research thus work by moving from the abstract of the concrete, and also it also start with the abstract generalization and investigates them at one level. This through a thorough understanding of the way of concept or abstraction is usually used. Of course, any sound non-critical research will also undertake this kind of review review or it embedded in the sociological tradition. So critical social research, however, goes further than uh, comprehensive review of accepted uses of investigation uh, that taken for granted underpinning of the concept. So this is a abstraction. Now come to the totality. It refer to view that social phenomena are interrelated and form of total whole, and this implies more than that a social phenomena, and it should be situated in a wider social context, and it regarded that social phenomena should not be analyzed in isolation. So they should not be regarded as a encapsulated by narrowly defined realm, which can be investigated in a way that suggests they are self-content element on organism. So in adopting an approach in term of totality, critical social research attempt to relate empirical detail to a structure and historical whole. Now come to the essence. Essence refer to fundamental of an analytical process. Some positivists, not some, most of the positivists regard any concern with the essence as bordering on metaphysical. and their only overt acknowledge is in relation to the reduction of social or physical process to their essential cause link. Phenomenologists investigating the goal uh, investigating the social world views essence in the rather different way. So they seek the essential nature of the social phenomena or social relation, that is some kind of core of being engagement with the stream of consciousness, or less transcendently the set of construct that inform interactive process. Now come to the praxis. Praxis means uh, reflective activity. It is what human do a lot of time. Means it does not include instinctive or mindless activity like sleeping, breathing, walking, undertaking repetitive task. Praxis is what changed the world for critical social research knowledge, and that critical social research engage praxis. So what critical research much take account of you can say, mm, must take account in some way that changes in social formation are result of praxis. Even throughout, it has been suggested that critical social research is must about a questioning the nature of knowledge, and it is about the critique of knowledge, and it is much about the questioning the nature of knowledge. It result the reflection, but the critique of knowledge we have, knowledge changes not simply as a result of reflection, as a result of praxis. Similarly, what we know inform praxis, knowledge of dynamic is not because as a result of praxis. More gain of sand for the bucket, this is example, but because of process of fundamental reconceptualization, which is only a possible as a result of direct engagement with the process and structure, and which is dusted down and looked at it. So this is praxis. Now another one is ideology. Ideology has been, it is translated into simply in English has tended to be little poorly analyzed in much conventional social research. So the difficulty in objectivizing ideology has led some social scientists to regard it beyond a scientific analysis, and it is not important or to replace it with term like norm values, central value system, etc. So ideology is in positive sense to relate ideology close to worldview, and notably class based worldview. So the dominant worldview is said to be hegemonic, and ideology serve to hide the interest of dominated groups from themselves. So ideology is a important concept for a critical social research because ideologies serve to obscure the true material reality and must be engaged in true material reality, and here refer not to self-evident surface appearance but to relation that are obscured by social totality. So the Positive view frame of ideology as a false consciousness given by Marx. It is a worldview and which can be engaged or transcended. Now come to the structure. Structure is a used in two way in social research. Its principal meaning, one applicable to critical social researches of structure view historically as a complex set of interrelated elements which are interdependent and which can be adequately conceived of term of in general. Marxist view of structural nature of a social system and what it involves as an idea of wholeness, idea of transformation and self-regulation. The wholeness means internal coherence, which is not very simple compositive aggregate of independent element, but parts conforming to intrinsic law and which is determine the nature of structure. Some alternative use of term of structure is to see something that can be reduced to its element, and the complexity of the structure is decomposed into network of link part with a view to exposing the element and the simplifying the whole. This is ideology. Next is history. History, it refers to both reconstructed account of past events and process by which this reconstruction is made. Means the process of doing history. History writing involve both views about the nature of history and assembling of historical materials. And there are number of doing history and number of different schemes by categorizing history rather than assess of these differing views, the nature of historical perspective embodied in critical social research. So critical social research involve two essential elements: the grounding of generalized theory in the material history and the exposure of essential nature of structural relations which themselves historically. So critical social research is not accept the history is essential factual. All other aspects of social life history is an interpretative process and the product of activity locate the fact of events of history. So the more this term historicism is that history is an interpretative process and it is a incorporation of objectivity in one form of another. So, structuralism history is another word. It is a process of reconstructing the honed down history. The next is our uh, deconstruction and reconstruction. Deconstruction and reconstruction is begin from the abstract concept which are applied or used in relationship to an area of investigation, and there may be a large list of concept and it is a necessary to attempt a separate critical analysis of each. So before addressing how the central concept is analyzed, it is important to note that deconstructive reconstructive process is not just abstract concept analysis tackle onto usual idealized sequence of event in research undertaking, and critical social research is not embodied in that series of discrete phases, and so the abstract analysis while starting point is integrally related to empirical inquiry, not something that stand apart from its conceptualization. For the critical social research, it is grounded in material world. So so what we has to decide for this concept, bear in mind, selection is one that derive from constantly mediated thought, and this mediation in term of assessment of potential abstract conceptualization as well as concrete social research. So these are the some elements. Now come to the approach to critical research. Not I'm not going in very detail because it is not in your things, but it is a critical case study. Uh, yes, critical case study. Wait a minute. Critical case study, radical historicism, critical ethnographic structural techniques. Uh, I'll give you some lines of definition. Critical case study is a focus on unique case that does not have any predetermined purpose, like wet and incredibility severe cases of PTSD could be studied to find out treat his condition. And ethics are large part of case study processes, and the most cases study require the ethical approval. Next was is radical historicism, a radical 20th century form that view of the history and constructed as an essentially contingent process, and it is ultimate framework within which to evaluate and justify the truth of human knowing and meaning of human action is critical radical historicism. And another one is a critical ethnography. It is a qualitative approach and method that endeavor to explore and understand dominant discourses and are seen as being the right way to think, see, talk about or enact a particular action situation in society, and recommend way to redress social power. Another last one is a structural technique. A structural approach is a technique wherein the learner master the pattern of sentences. So structure are the different arrangement of the word in one accepted style or other. So it include various mode in which clause, phrase, or word might be. So I'll take 10-minute break and we will meet after 10 minutes.